using our music to connect people and cultures. We dreamt of opening new doors, building bridges, and creating opportunities. We believed in a cultural bridge which started in Argentina and spanned to the United States and the world. We planted our first seed in Córdoba and continue leaving our musical footprints in Buenos Aires, New York, Chile, and Puerto Rico, always seeking to meet new communities, learn from one another, and feed souls and hearts with the power of music. We dreamt of flooding the world with heartfelt melodies and lyrics, and our dream grew bigger and bigger. In a short time, many more around the globe shared our dream. One applause turned into ovations. We visited one school, dozens since, and reached thousands of enthusiastic children. And from schools, then we took our music to hospitals, malls, parks, and universities. We brought music to the people where they least expected it. We sung under a sky which, like our music, unites all the people of the world. And one day, we tried the unthinkable. We took our classical music to the stadiums, and we showed our young friends how much music and sports have in common. And we linked sports and music under a common theme of teamwork, discipline, and commitment. We played on the streets. We played outdoors, for small audiences and large ones, in one theater and in another and another, always with the same desire, the same passion, and the same dream, using our music to break barriers and connect the people of the world. And our dream knew no geographical boundaries. And along the road, we met people with dreams as big as ours. And since the beginning, more and more people have joined us on our musical journey. What started as a dream became a mission. It became our purpose to use music to unite. We seek to connect artists, children, students, music lovers, and anyone who opens their heart to the joy of music. And we'll continue down this road, a road which has taken us far, but the trip has just begun, and we have much more music to share.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back for the second edition of New Docta House Calls. I'm Yves Dharamraj, co-founder of New Docta, and I'm here together with my fabulous fellow co-founders, Solange and Sami Merdinian. Say hello, Sami and Solange.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. We're coming to you live virtually from New York, from Florida, from all over the place. And we're really excited to have, for our second guest, an extraordinary musician, a dear friend of ours. He's doing amazing things with music for social justice, Nathan Schram. He's a Grammy Award-winning composer, entrepreneur, and violist of the Attacca Quartet. He's collaborated with many great artists. You know the names: Bjork, Itzhak Perlman, Sting, David Crosby, his illustrious multi-talented wife, Becca Stevens. The list goes on and on. He's also founder and executive director of Musicambia, which is a non-profit organization that brings music learning and ensemble performance to prisons throughout the United States. A huge player in using music for social justice. We're going to hear a lot about that. And just overall, a really fun, innovative mind that really brings creative ideas to the classical music world. It is our extreme pleasure to invite Nathan Schram. Let's get him up on the screen.
And if you have questions for him, don't forget, you can comment and we'll make those questions at the end of our conversation with him.
Hey!
Hey, Nate.
How's it going, Nate? How
Thanks
you doing?
for the
Where are you coming from?
Introduction. I'm coming from Brooklyn, New York right now.
Yeah. And how you been faring with the pandemic?
You know, I mean, sometimes I really like it. You know, sometimes I've been getting to dig into a lot of projects that I've kind of only dreamed of having the time to do, and that's been spectacular. And sometimes I go crazy. I was literally just laughing last night uncontrollably and looking at my wife and being like, I'm going crazy. I'm definitely
a little bit more crazy.
Yeah.
That's hard for Nate to do. So
Yeah.
Well, Nate. First of all, thank you for coming on our new show, New Doctor House Calls. You were one of our first guest artists at our festival, and I've had the pleasure of knowing you for quite some time, playing with you. You're certainly one of my favorite violists. And whenever I hear you introduce the viola to kids, you're always like, I play the viola. Yeah. So we want to know, how did you get started? And, what's your favorite thing about playing the viola?
Yeah, it's the funny things that stick with your friends, Yeah, I started viola kind of proudly in the public school system of Northern Virginia. Neither of my parents are musicians. Pretty far from it, actually. My dad was a fighter pilot. Now he's retired. My mom's was a nurse that worked her way really high up into the nursing world. Always loved music, but was never really a musician. And I kind of stumbled upon it in school when they introduced strings in the 4th grade when I was 10 years old. And it was just like it was kind of a inconsequential decision at the time. I saw the violin. I thought that was really cool that you could walk around and play it. The cello sounded amazing. And this viola was like the middle ground. Like, it covers all the bases. It was fun to play, easy to play, I thought. And it sounded really great.
You weren't deterred by the viola jokes?
There's I hadn't even heard about them for a long time. And then now I try to shut them down whenever possible. But
now you prove them differently. That's the thing.
Sometimes I really back them up. But yeah, it was just a beautiful instrument, and it just ended up being something that kind of I just loved more and more the more I played it, and it just kind of slowly took over my life. That I'm just now starting to shed away. It's funny how these things happen.
Well, I mean, you're certainly doing incredible things with the viola. Solo composition projects. But I think probably what sticks out, of the few things that really stick out, is how you've joined the Taka Quartet, which is one of the leading ensembles, young, exciting ensemble that's sort of pushing and paving the way with your repertoire. And of course, the big thing is you recently won a Grammy for your album, Orange, collaboration with Caroline Shaw. Tell us about your time with the Taka Quartet. What's it like playing with them, and how did this project come about? And walk us through. I'm jealous. I haven't won a Grammy.
Yeah.
Give me the tips, the checklist.
I think the tip is don't try to win it. I'm
excelling at that.
But it's one of these things that we happen to make the right album at the right time. We were very lucky to have that opportunity. Honestly, we were thinking about our next record that we're going to make, and it was like we were playing a lot of Caroline's music. It's always tricky to decide, especially as a classical musician, what you're going to make as an album. It's kind of a necessity to, as a promotional tool to make an album, to have something to go to the press, to go to newspapers and say, hey, here's something that really distills what we're about this year. And so making that decision is always hard, because as a classical musician, you're playing oftentimes a repertoire that's been recorded dozens, sometimes hundreds of times. And so you're either trying to wrap it up in a new way and try to talk about it in a way that's refreshing. You're trying to play it a little bit differently, but in the end, you're still playing the same music. So we started talking about what kind of new music. We play a lot of classical music, but we're getting more and more known for new music, and it makes so much more sense to record new music, especially music that hasn't been recorded, than it does to record old music. Even though I would say that we play old music differently than anyone else, but I think everyone plays old music different than everyone else. So it's a little unfair to say that. But so in the process, we were falling in love with Caroline's music. We felt this really powerful thing whenever we played her music in concerts, especially when we did entire concerts of her work. So we had a program called Recently Added, where we would play complete works of composers that were still writing quartets. So we did one of John Adams, of Michael Ippolito. We had a few other planned, but it ended up being very, very time consuming. And but Caroline Shaw was one of our first people that we did that with. And to be honest, like I think the Grammy Award goes to Caroline Shaw because she wrote really beautiful music that makes people feel something. It makes them re-examine what they feel about the string quartet, its role in our classical music world, but also the quartet's role in the greater musical environment that we're all existing in. And it was a great night to get that thing.
Well, I think you're being a little modest in saying that it all goes to her because I'm sure it took a lot of work. I play a lot of music, so do Sami and Solange, and to have something that's fresh ink and never heard before, that's a huge responsibility, and so you guys are very deserving. Just thanks. For a lot of our New Docta fans and followers who might not be familiar with Caroline Shaw, how would you describe her style, her music, and specifically with regard to Orange?
Yeah, she's at first glance a kind of simple composer. Writes with not really extended harmonies that you recognize is a good way to put it. And so at first glance, people kind of can sometimes dismiss her as being too simplistic or slightly what's the word? Anyways, just reusing stuff that they've heard before. But what's so special about her is that in every one of her pieces that I've ever played, you have this kind of recognizable seed that brings you to it and makes you feel comfortable at home. And then she slowly and very comfortably kind of expands your mind and expands your ears in a way that is really translates to just about any kind of listener. As musicians, we get really deep into the kind of convoluted stuff that like Schoenberg or Mahler, the stuff that is so dense, and you can kind of you can analyze every chord and every measure to the point where you're getting at what he's trying to represent in the subconscious of humanity. And there's so much. I mean,
that's very deep.
Mahler's one of my favorite composers ever, and that's one of the things I love about him. But I know that's the same reason that people get put off by him. And Caroline does this amazing thing where she can satisfy the listeners that are looking for that really intense depth, but also can satisfy the people that are just looking to hear something beautiful. And that boundary crossing is unbelievably unique, and I think it's why she's become one of the most important classical music artists and just musical artists of our time.
I urge you, all of you out there, if you haven't checked out the album Orange, Grammy Award winning, it really is absolutely beautiful. It seems familiar, but at the same time, very fresh and new sounds. And you guys really do a wonderful job just presenting it, and congratulations.
Thanks, Yves.
I believe if you look through the comments, you'll get the little message of you can look through. So Orange, if you can't remember, just look through the comments.
Naranja for our Argentinian followers, though.
Did I spell Ataca correctly?
A ver. Yeah.
Okay, good.
So, Nate, on the topic of composition and arranging, you yourself have started down the path of writing music. One of my favorite arrangements that you ever made was a quartet arrangement of Radiohead's 2 + 2 = 5.
Oh yeah.
And it was quite a while ago. I'd say 5-6 years ago that we played it. It just really rocks out. It's not very often. I think that's something that Sami, being part of Sybarite 5, they do a lot of Radiohead stuff. It's a real thrill to just kind of let loose and play this music from a different genre. So, I mean, we have a lot of composition and music enthusiasts that do arrangements that follow New Docta. We've done arrangements through the years. We certainly spotlight new compositions. I mean, what are some of the challenges that go into writing arrangements or writing new music, and how do you approach it?
I start every piece and every arrangement feeling like a total loser. And it's like it's like a huge like process of just slowly learning and accepting that you don't know how to do it, but you're gonna figure it out. I was watching some like a preview to one of these this masterclass series that
Yes.
Oh yeah, I've been
trying to
totally
get
nerding out in.
Everybody's talking about them.
Yeah, they're really great. And there's one that I haven't even seen. I've just seen the preview of I think it's Danny Elfman, or it might even be Hans Zimmer, and the fact that I'm mixing them up is really funny. But
they're both on there.
Yeah, right. And they're both these monumental film composers. And one of them says, "I start every film out knowing that I don't know how to do this film." I was like, "Oh yeah, that's how I feel." And obviously I'm doing way smaller projects, but the fact that they have all this experience, all these accolades, and they still feel that way is kind of a reassuring thing that there's a lot of beauty and humility in not knowing it, even though it's sometimes excruciating, and I oftentimes have to go to my wife and say, like, "Does this suck?" And she's like, no, but you need to change it, or or being really supportive and kind of perception is everything. So that's the biggest thing I've learned is like how to.
You just did your first jingle too, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you did? I didn't even know about it.
Oh, it was
what was it
super
for?
fun. Well, my friend, a violinist named Danny Bartels, who I actually met through Musicambia, it now runs a painting company called Perfectionist Painting, and he was like, I wanted like really push the company to the next level, and I want to do a jingle, and I know musicians are out of work, and he's like, "Can I hire you?" I was like, "Oh, hell yeah!" And so I wrote this little jingle, and I had Becca sing it. I actually sang it at first, and I sent it to him. He's like, "Yeah, maybe just leave Becca's voice in," which was a really, really good call. Yeah, so I'm just kind of doing all sorts of stuff. I've been doing, since I've had all this time. I was trying to think of how to like do both make myself useful professionally, because I think a lot of us musicians, all of a sudden, once our concerts are canceled, we're like, what is our value to society? And so I kind of had a little list of like how I'm tangentially valuable to society. But then what was really important that my wife, thankfully pushed me to do, she said, yeah, don't just find something that makes you feel valuable. What is it that you want to do and what you want to grow into? And so I started advertising that I'll be doing string arrangements for whatever people could pay, and I just got a ton of work over the course of a few months, and was able to really kind of sharpen my skills a little bit, and have tighter deadlines, and not have to, which keeps you from getting stuck in your doubtful stage of thinking that you're such a loser, you can't do this. It kind of keeps you like, yeah, you might be a loser, but you have to finish it tonight. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure if that's the most helpful, but just stick to it, do your best, and accept that you're always going to keep getting better. I think that's the other thing. I think about that Radiohead arrangement, and I've been tweaking it for years because of all the little mistakes I keep finding in it, and the things that never seem.
It was awesome, man.
Yeah, it's super fun, but there's little things that were always kind of not quite working, and
2 plus 2 right?
Just didn't act up.
Yeah, 2 plus 2 didn't equal 5 for some reason.
So on that note, I think maybe we could give our fans a little taste of one of your arrangements. We've got something of yours, a video of multiple Nathan Schram.
Mini-me's.
One wasn't enough. Doing an arrangement of I believe a song by David Crosby. Is that correct?
Kind of. It's there was my wife sings in a band with David Crosby, and he asked me to arrange his song for strings, and I did that, but it was like a minute and a half or something, and he said, I would like for you to expand this. And so there's basically just like a minute and a half segment that is like 90% David Crosby in the middle, and then all the outsides and stuff of the piece are kind of like a very personal commentary on what the piece is about. This piece is the core part, the David Crosby song part of the piece, is about when he was in a studio and he lost a friend at a very young age to drug overdose, and years later he was in the recording studio and he was positive that she was there beside him, and he did this kind of very quick improvisation on that. We called I'd swear there was somebody here, or someone here. And a few years ago, I had lost a friend in a somewhat similar situation, and so I kind of thought a lot about it. It took me almost 2 years to write this, and it's kind of a conversation with David Crosby's piece, where it is an arrangement of his piece, but it's also a very kind of deep personal reaction to it, also, and an unfortunately very common issue these days in the United States.
Yeah. So we're going to hear part of it. today, but we're going to make sure to post it so they can view the whole video. We're going to hear, I believe, is the initial section. So,
Cool.
If technology permits it, right?
Wow,
Cool.
beautiful.
That was too short. I wanted to hear more, but
Well, it's all up on
we're
YouTube.
gonna. It's all up on YouTube, in your channel. So
Yeah.
yeah, check it out. Go and some of the beautiful videos that Nate has been putting up lately.
really weird.
We'll get a little taste of a different Nathan Schram.
There are many
a little bit.
personalities, right? Many personalities of
I
Nathan
am a
Schram.
Gemini, and that's the first. Yeah, something my wife reminds me of a lot.
So in this segment that we're starting now, I want to talk a little more about one of the most fascinating things that you're doing. We talked about Ataka, but I think a big part of your life now is what Yves talked about in the introduction, Musicambia, which is a nonprofit. And I want you to kind of tell us about the mission of Musicambia and how you came about it and how you got started with it.
Yeah. So the concept is fairly simple. It's just bringing music programs of various kinds into prisons throughout the United States justice system. So throughout the prisons of the country. That look a lot different in different places. But really, in the end, the idea is to figure out ways of both offering opportunities to people that are severely forgotten in our society, and also, slowly changing the system of mass incarceration that we've developed and we've designed in this country. It's basically, we've been going on for about 7 years now, and we're now in, I think, something like 4 states. It's always changing, and it's right now we're kind of in even fewer because of what's happening with quarantine, and also how negatively this COVID-19 has affected people that are incarcerated. It's much more devastating to the populations that are incarcerated than to the general population. But and I can talk later about what we're doing during this time for these programs. But basically we teach where we try to. I have to be a little careful about how I talk about this, because sometimes it's a little misleading. I say we teach instruments and we teach music to men and women that are incarcerated, but really it's a much more nuanced situation where I oftentimes think myself that I and our faculty are learning more than the people that we're serving on the inside, because both for a number of reasons. For one, I'm just learning constantly about the different genres that people are interested in making with music, and I'm constantly learning and adapting to try to bring them opportunities so they can make the music they want, even if it's not a style of music or an instrument that I'm an expert in, or even a novice in. Sometimes I'm really learning from scratch and just jumping in. So in the end, what we find our real purpose is that we're just trying to build communities around music where communities have basically been disassembled for the sake of the security of the facility. And what we show through Musicambia and through creating these music schools is that everyone benefits. The community at large benefits. The men and women we serve benefit. The security and administration benefit for the sake that they're actually doing good and helping these men and women be more proud of themselves than what usually happens in a place like that.
So yeah, I guess in 2013 is when you started, right? So
Yeah.
it has a very parallel life with New Docta. That's the year we started the festival,
that's
and
true.
that's the year that the first of the 2 years that you came down to Argentina to be with us.
I think that's the year I swam in the East River to raise money for Musicambia.
That's how it started.
And that was a little fundraising ploy, yeah.
I don't think over a New
I didn't know about
Docta,
that.
that crazy.
Yeah.
So when you started Musicambia, did you know that it was going to grow the way it has in the last 7 years?
Yeah, in some ways, I'd kind of hoped it would grow more. My goal has always been to have it in all 50 states within the first 20 years, and it could still happen. But we're realizing that there's a little bigger purpose here that is not about volume all the time. It's more about quality. But at the same time, we're expanding. We're constantly developing our model for making it making bigger and bigger impact. I mean, it's always been very clear from the beginning that we have a problem with our system of incarceration, that we incarcerate too many people, we incarcerate them unjustly and for too long, and we don't take care of them after they've been released. And that problem was very evident. So basically, you could throw any solution at that wall, and it would be positive, and you could run with it, and you'd get support. Because it's just it's like, as my sister-in-law says, it's like doing real estate in New York in the 80s. Everyone won. It was just like everyone did well in that time because it was just such a great time for that field. And so in some ways, I knew that this was going to work well. That I was going to have the relationships that I do now from this program, like that jingle is written first. A guy that I knew from Sing Sing. He's a violinist there, and it's crazy. And I have relationships with these guys that they're very close, and they're very important people to me. And I didn't expect that. I don't know why, but there's all sorts of different unusual outcomes that I never could have foreseen.
And how do you find yourself now going to do the work you're doing there, and how have you changed since the first time you went in?
I'm a lot more humble. Like I don't try to know stuff that I don't know anymore. As there is a little bit of hubris involved with going in and being like, I'm a classical musician, I'm going to go teach music to some guys that are incarcerated. And I mean, like, there was value in that for sure, and I'm glad I did that. But now it's like I end up going in and being like, oh, how do you want me to do anything on this rap song? How do you want me to do anything on this like cumbia song or anything? Or like, I want to help write a song, but more than anything, I want to just be an initiator for you to explore what you want to do. And so I find myself just being like a really positive enabler now versus thinking I was the expert. Now I'm the novice in most situations in there, which is like going back to the arrangement and composition idea. It's a very lucky place to be, to constantly just be in a state of learning and initiating, getting people to get excited about stuff. You guys know I'm good at getting people excited to do, whether it's going to a dance club or just playing some music that I really like. I can convince people that it's going to be fun.
You should give me a wake-up call every morning during this pandemic.
Hey, Eve, it's the morning.
It's the best day you'll ever live.
Great day.
It's going to be a great one. Yeah, I'm easier at doing that for other people than for myself, unfortunately.
Nice. So I'm sure there are like so many success stories of like just working with someone giving them an instrument or like enabling them getting an instrument for the first time. Like, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and maybe you can share one of these stories of like how
Yeah.
it changed someone
Yeah, I mean, the quickest
that
I
you
ever
were working
thought,
with.
which the most like succinct thing that I've ever seen this happen. It's like the most change in the shortest amount of time I've ever seen. Was this guy Ali, who's playing? He joined the first class of Musicambia and was pretty quiet and wasn't really interested in what we were offering. But he's just like, I just want a saxophone. Can you give me a saxophone? I just want to be able to practice. And so we managed to get a saxophone in there, and we didn't really see him during the classes. He was just kind of like practicing in a room next to us in the school. There's a school at Sing Sing Conservatory, Sing Sing Correctional Facility. And he was just kind of practicing. It was all cool. And then he, at a concert, he played like the opening melody of "What a Wonderful World," and he like, it was kind of like everyone was just like, where did this guy come from? And his knees were shaking and stuff. And from that point, and I came off, he's like, I was so nervous, man. And this guy, by the way, I should have prefaced it, like, when you talk to him, he wouldn't really look at you in the face, kind of look down. He'd mumble a lot. Wasn't like, you didn't see like a light in his eyes. Like, he wasn't super excited to be alive, and for a lot of probably really good reasons. And then after this concert, from there on out, he always had the biggest smile. He was like, his eyes were like so bright that, and he was talking clearly. He stood up straight, and he was just like, to this day, I see him when I go in, and he's always super excited to be there. He's super excited to be alive and making music. And that's the kind of thing that's just like, I had so little to do with, but at the same time, it was a change that makes that person seem like it's just it's a personality shift that you don't see very often. You don't see something happen in someone's personality shift like that.
It's life changing.
Yeah, totally. And so there's situations like that. But then there's like the longer arch where you have people. One of my favorite students that we have is his name's Flaco, and he's playing violin, and we got him his violin for first day we got in there. And I remember coming in one day by myself like Santa Claus. I had like a cello, 2 violins, viola, all packed up, and like,
Yeah,
and I'm walking through this prison, and like for some reason the escorts didn't come to take me, so I'm just kind of like walking down, sing, and I'm just handing this stuff out. It was a very special day for me to be able to hand out a string quartet of instruments. Anyway, awesome. This guy, like, just I think last year, about when we were about 5-6 years in, he played the second movement of Tchaikovsky's Violin Concerto. He's just like shredding on the violin. He's a great improviser, and really self-motivated. And you talk to people on his cell block, and they're like, "Yeah, he's practicing like 5-6 hours a day. He won't shut up."
Oh no!
and he's another person that was like really quiet and shy, and now he's kind of like he's like the star. But what's so cool is we have people come up and say, I want to join this program. I'm on Flaco's cell block, and I want what happened to him to happen to me. And they're not even talking about music, right? They're talking about him. They're talking about like, I saw him become like an empowered person, and I want that. Like, I don't care where it came from, if it came from music or if it came from chicken. Like, it's just, I want that. Like, and it seems like it came from this program. So those are the things that just kind of like, they're amazing. I mean, it's super. Those are the moments that like I keep, in the moment when it's happening, and when you see it happening, you don't think much of it. You're just like, okay, and I need to get you some strings, and I need to get you some rosin. But then people ask you, what are some of the big moments, and you're like, man, that's amazing that happened. I don't think it's so cool. I'm sure it's kind of like having kids. You see kids grow and do something like that, but these are adults. These are adults that have been put down by so many different systems in this country, and they've been told not to succeed in so many different ways in their life, and to see them succeed so beautifully and to inspire others around them in an environment that is hell. It's amazing. It's super amazing.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow. Yeah, you're right. Like, that's, I think, to be able to be part of stories like that, and it's so rewarding. And I think we can relate to like that little girl in the hospital, like, that hadn't moved for weeks. And we came in, and like we played some music, and like her fingers started moving, and like, yeah, those are the moments. And I'm sure
I was starting to tear up watching that new Docta video, because I was remembering all these amazing moments that we had there. It's so cool. And to see what you guys have done since I was there is so amazing. I kind of want to interview you guys now and hear more about what you all have been up to since I was there.
That's the
We'll
next
have to
chapter.
check our pandemic calendars. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a question here on YouTube from Mike, and he's asking, what first drew you to being interested in working with the incarcerated? Especially back then, it wasn't a popular cause.
Totally.
Yeah,
Great question.
it's been a little bit of a battle I've had like in the past few months, where everyone's so outraged now at all the inequities we have, and which is a great thing. Like, it's a great thing that we're all like, everyone is unifying their voices. But in the back of my mind, sometimes I think like, this was here before. Like, where like, and people were talking about it. I think it's why you hear so many people be like, wow, I'm really surprised that this one event changed everyone. And thank God it did. But it's like,
Right.
this stuff was all laying out in the open, it was very clear. But, to be fair, I had a lot of important influences in my life that shared what was going on in the world, my brother and sister are both lawyers. My brother at that time was a public defender in Brooklyn, and had really deeply educated himself in some of these inequities that were happening in our culture and in the global society. And of the many books he passed off to me, one of them was Angela Davis's "Are Prisons Obsolete?", which is a great book for people to read that are interested in what prison reform would look like. Spoiler alert: it doesn't just have to do with prisons. We have to solve some of the inequities in our society. But the other massive book that has been kind of the tome for people that are interested in this work is the new Jim Crow, Michelle Alexander's book, Mass Incarceration and the Age of Colorblindness, which is a subtitle of the book that isn't mentioned very often, but it's such an important part. This idea that we thought we were all, above race, and that's when the most systemic racism began to happening. Anyway, so it's through these things that you start reading about it, and it's the kind of thing where once you read about it, it becomes very, very clear how big of an issue it is. And
Right.
I don't know. I always remembered like it was such a clear thing. People talked about there wasn't racism in America, but everyone knew there were more black and brown people in prison than white people. Like, everyone knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could have asked anyone, they're like, "Oh yeah, it's messed up," and then they move on. It's like that, and that's like the major outcome of so many different things and stuff that I'm learning about. I shouldn't be condescending about anything in the movement because there's so much stuff I don't know about. There's so much. I've been learning a lot about the idea of white supremacy versus a white supremacist, and how I exist in a world of white supremacy, and I in many ways I am a part of that systemic culture, and I've been learning a lot about all the things that go into making this outcome of a really messed up racist prison system, like the racist justice system, and the social inequalities happening just on a much more basic economic level. So I mean, I was lucky enough to be kind of pushed towards educating myself on this stuff early on, and there's a lot further to go. But this has been happening for 35, almost 40 years now, and it's about time. I don't even know. I'm scared that this movement's not going to fully change it, and I'm also constantly asking myself if Musicambia is a kind of force that is helping bring down the systems, or is it actually just justifying it to the administration and saying, "Oh, look, we're doing good work. We're helping the system of rehabilitation." So it's a constant battle to keep asking yourself questions about how am I really helping the problems at large.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I could go into this for a while.
No, it's just. I mean, obviously, you're passionate about it, right? So, and I think that's how we also feel it too. So it's
but if anyone wants to look more into this, I mean, the new Jim Crow is honestly, the first 100 pages are all you need to know about knowing how messed up it is. Read the whole book, but read the first 100 pages, and you'll have a very clear idea about how it's an unavoidable issue that. Right. Anyone that reads it is like, okay, this is a problem. Like, it's a beautifully written book. It's well documented and well backed up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nate. Thanks for the work you do, and I encourage everyone watching to check out the website, musicambia.org, for more information. And if you want to get in touch with Nate, let us know. He's, as you can tell, an awesome guy, and he'll be happy to keep talking about this subject because
Till the
as
cows
we
go
saw,
home.
yeah, that's. So I think we're gonna move on to a new. Solange will take over.
Yeah,
The Solange minute.
Yeah.
So obviously
now.
we've been lucky. Yeah, now watch out now. We've been extremely lucky, like we've mentioned before, to have you as a guest our first 2 years. Not only because of the level of artist that you are, but also you speak Spanish, which was a great help for working with kids down there.
I spoke Spanish.
I don't know now. We haven't tested it back then.
I'm pretty sure your Spanish is still a lot better than mine, and I go every year. So
I don't know.
So basically, I remember that one phrase that you used. You wanted to make every kid that we came across. You're like, that viola is the greatest instrument there is, and you wanted to convince everybody to start playing it. So on that round, what do you think? What impact did you leave? You felt like you left in Argentina while you were there during our festival.
Huh. Yeah, I think we got some viola love down there. I mean,
Sami took my headphones. I can't hear you. Here we go.
I think we got some good viola love down there. I'd love to see the forensic report about how many more violists there are in Córdoba now than there were before I came.
it was banned after you left.
A statue that said "never again." Yeah, my impact. It's kind of hard to know. I mean, it was. I mean, in the end, I feel like I can take zero credit for what's happened down there because you guys have been working so hard to develop this year after year, and I think more than anything, the impact is just that I was able to fill the role of violist while you guys have developed this amazing community down there. And I'd like to think that my love of soccer also helped slowly influence the combination with sports down there. But yeah, I mean, it's just been beautiful what you guys have done. And with I can tell there's still really amazing interactive performances happening with students, and it seems like with adults also. I was just talking, I was mentioning to you guys backstage before we went on that I was just chatting with, I guess he was a student when we were there, Herman Schreiber, who he texted me on Facebook and he said, "Oh my God, I didn't know you were in the Taka Quartet. I've been I think he's principal cellist of like a major orchestra in Buenos Aires. I won't say which because he said he was really, really upset with it not having a good time anymore. Or maybe I shouldn't say that either."
Oh no!
Sorry, but what orchestral musician doesn't feel like that every once in a while?
Live TV.
Yeah, you can just do a long beep out of that. Anyways, he contacted me just like a month or two ago and said, I just watched a video of you with the Taka Quartet playing Beethoven. I think it was the slow movement of Opus 132, which is Beethoven's song of thanksgiving to God, just after he recovered from a major illness. And Herman listened to it and he said, this has just really reinvigorated me to redevote myself to music and redevote myself to chamber music too. And which was just such a beautiful thing to hear from a student that, I remember really well, because I think he played Haydn C, cello concerto for Yves in a masterclass down there. And I was just like, man, this guy's, not only was he just a great cellist, but he had this kind of like zest.
Like always full of energy,
and he loved it. He really loved it. And to hear that,
and he plays viola and he plays violin.
Yeah, that's right. And a great Baroque cellist too, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyways, to hear that someone like that I had met and worked with a little bit and had a really great time making music with is still on that path to kind of constantly find the joy in music was really cool to hear that.
So if you had to take let's just say the top 3 things from your time down there that you can remember and that you loved. It could be anything really, but
it was a really long time ago, right?
I know. Let's see. We'll test your memory now.
We'll have to bring him back.
You know what I've never forgotten are the empanadas at that lunch place where they put like it's like this really juicy beef with olives, which kind of blew me away at the time. They were so. By the way, I always left Cordova like 10, 15 pounds heavier. Like I would like see pictures afterwards, and I'd have these like haunches here, and like I was like inflated. Even my like Argentine family who was down there afterwards, they're just like, "Whoa, you look fat."
Hey, be careful. We have to invite guests in the future. You know, we don't.
I mean, it was wonderful, but that and the costillas at that place were amazing.
definitely the food.
Costillas and empanadas.
I'll make you empanadas just to
Okay, yeah.
with olives. So
Yeah, great.
That's true. Our
Bring
first
the-
2
bring
years,
memories.
actually, we weren't in Buenos Aires yet. The first 2 years that we did New Doctor was
Oh, that's right, it
in
was
Cordova only.
Are you guys
So-
mostly? Are you
We
split?
do half and half now.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
Oh man, I miss those cities. Let's see what I love that hall that Solange and Sami are in right now. I think it's such a beautiful place. I think it was being renovated one of the years I was there. Is that right?
yeah.
correct.
But it's such a beautiful. It's like so classic, but also there's something so Argentine about it. Like I just felt like it
It's
just
the
like
Italian influence, you know.
yeah, totally. But it was like it always felt like the concerts there were so special. Like after the time connecting with audiences. And I just thought of my third one. But the way that we would spend so much time there connecting with people and then seeing all those people in the audience and like this kind of like full-hearted support that you can't fake is beautiful, and it doesn't happen very often. The third one is Lomito, Lomito. Not the Lomito, but I remember when we sang
The
it.
tune, Pueblito, Pueblito.
Pueblito,
Pueblito, mi pueblo,
Carlos
which is like
Guastaviña song.
the anthem that we chose for New Doctor.
But we sang at your school, the Zanetti School or something like
Zipoli.
Zipoli.
Yeah.
That was really beautiful. I mean, to go back to where you came from, and to play with was it an all girls school?
No, it was mixed, but it's always been mostly girls. But
Maybe
it's a
that-
music school, yeah.
Man, I remember that being so beautiful, and doing that song with all you guys and with the choir was so special. That was really great.
That's cool.
Oh man, let's see what other memories I can jog.
That was an incredible concert. How the number of people that we had on stage together
Yeah,
was truly special.
and
Just to give a little background, we had the kids choir join at the theater with this anthem that I sang way back with them when I was a kid, and so they joined New Doctor, and Yves was there, and we all did a concert at that hall.
Oh, and we also did it at school. That's what I was thinking of too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like the first. I think we were all shocked how like we went to do a concert for them, like a interactive educational concert, and then we played that song, and all of a sudden like the entire school started singing along. I was like, wow. Yeah, I remember that. That left a mark.
Yeah.
For sure. So when you were down there, we didn't do the hospital visits yet. So we did the schools to theater, we did master classes, and then just concerts. That was like the main three things at the time that we're doing. And then we, as you said, we like kept adding on music and sports and other things. But what would you say that I've seen you work with kids before when you were down there. I hadn't personally, I know you as a colleague, but I hadn't seen you work with them. And, you're like exactly what we look for, when we bring someone down there. It's
Clown.
you probably, whoever's watching right now, got the gist of like Nate's personality, and he's full on and full energy all the time. And, for us to have shared the stage with basically this type of energy, it brought it all to a different level, which is fun for all of us. So would you say, did you learn, actually, have you gone about and learned techniques? I know that you were part of the Carnegie Hall Institute, so there were different techniques. You went with Yves, actually, you shared some time there. So specific
He's like one of my oldest friends in New York.
tools, that you used
I know where
for
the
the
bones are
kids.
buried.
Yeah. Sorry, Solange. Any tools that I learned in there or since then, or?
Actually, I was wondering, because you've done a lot of work here with kids. So when you were down there, did you see any difference between, culturally speaking, reactions with children, how you work with them, Are they different in response? You know, like the Argentinian Latin culture from like the U.S. and if there's something there.
It's hard for me to say because it was all under the auspice of my like labored Spanish, which was like I remember like the first thing I remember. I think like my first line in one of like our presentations was saying like araña or something, or arana or rana or something, and like I said that word and everyone just starts laughing and I'm just like, what's going on? Did I say it wrong? And I think you guys are like, I think it's your accent. And every time I talk from there on out, everyone just start laughing. I'm like, I'm being serious. What's going on? And so I remember like part of me was just like, all right, I'll go with that. I'll just be the really weird sounding guy that's like kind of Spain, kind of from like America. So I remember just like, you know, in Spanish, it was also me thinking of like how to, like all these musical terms I hadn't always used, or making sure I'm using the right kind of like dialect of Spanish and not something that would be like inappropriate from Spain. But I mean, the kids I remember were amazing. I mean, I remember they were super well behaved and like in a lot of ways better behaved than the kids we would visit in New York City. And but you know, kids are kids. I mean,
kids are kids, exactly.
Like adults are like kids. I mean, some of the stuff that you learn to do with kids, like you know, I do it in like lessons for adults, or even like in prison. Like it's the same thing. Like make something digestible, make it fun. Exactly. And then like repeat. It's exactly. Like, yeah. And you know stack levels of complexity or whatever, or just have fun and know that time will take care of the rest. But yeah, I don't remember. I remember that it was fun. It was super fun.
Oh, well, we loved having you there. And now just to kind of
we have a comment.
Oh, we do. Please.
Yeah. This is not a question, but just a comment from Chung. I like Nathan's music on YouTube, especially Oak and the Ghost, but now I'm finding out he's an extraordinary human being.
Aww.
Yeah, so we're happy to share our awesome friends with all of you.
We've known him for a long time, and we couldn't agree with you more.
As extraordinary as Nate is, and his multi-talents and inspiring many people, there are some things that he's just not that good at. And that includes dance moves. And you want to explain this next, I got to call it evidence more than, presentation that we're going to show to our viewers. It's certainly an original composition, but what was the inspiration behind that? And how did you come up with it? Not just the music, but also the visual presentation.
My wife always says that my dance moves are just, I only have one mode, which is male stripper. Anyways, sorry if that's, you might want to bleep that one out too. But basically so once quarantine hit, everyone was just like, okay, what do I do? And so one of the projects that I've always wanted to really get into was learning a program called Ableton Live. I've always been into recording and doing kind of electronic music and stuff, but Ableton was a program that it's just very deep, and you kind of need to really devote some time to it to get good at it. My friend was offering kind of basically like free courses on it, which are amazing. And so I started kind of learning how to do the program, and I got this idea for a piece. Basically, it's like an electronic music dance piece, but with like really weird, crunchy viola sounds. So everything on the piece is viola, even though it might not sound like it.
So that's awesome. I love it. I saw it and I loved it.
Yeah, and so basically, I was at my parents' place at the time because I was in DC, and then my concert at the Kennedy Center was canceled, and so I stopped at my parents in Baltimore just to see how they were doing, and ended up staying for like 6 weeks. And one night I was just like, or one day I was just like, I got to do something, and so I went outside and I just filmed myself dancing, and then I chopped it up and matched it with the music as best I could, and it was a way of me dealing with, honestly, kind of like the depression of being in quarantine and not knowing what I was doing as a musician. And so just do something really ridiculous and try to make it cool. Another stage of, being bad at something and not knowing what was going to happen and turning it into something a little more fun.
We'll definitely see like the new skills that musicians have to have in the 21st century by listening and watching you. I think, it's not just playing anymore. Not only playing, composing, arranging, and now it's dancing as well. So,
yeah, I might not get hired for this one.
Well, Well, before we leave our fans and followers with this truly
extraordinary,
spectacular video, we want to thank you again, Nate, for coming on our show. You were one of our first guests. You're one of our dearest friends. We're truly inspired by all the projects that you're always involved in. You give 150%, always with a smile and a laugh. We all three of us can't wait to be able to make music together live again. And you know that we're in your corner, and we always feel that you're in our corner as far as our missions for you, Musicambia, and you, Docta. And we wish you, of course, all the best of luck. And we urge everybody out there, go check out Orange, the Grammy Award-winning album, in collaboration with, or music by Caroline Shaw and performed by the Taka Quartet. Musicambia, very powerful work, using music to inspire social change and work with incarcerated populations. And just go enjoy the sheer innovation that Nate brings with his compositions and his videos, especially in this time when the pandemic has brought all live entertainment really to a halt. So with that, we're gonna sign off. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Nate.
As
I love
as
you
always,
guys.
reach out to us at YouTube, subscribe. You know how to find us. Go to our website, newdocta.org. And we're going to leave you with Bad Dance Moves by Nathan Schram.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Oh, hi, Becca.
This side back up. Bye.
Bye.